Hey guys, I wanted to talk about propane heaters. In middle Georgia, it doesn't get that cold, not like up north or anything like that, and we don't have snow very often. But once in a great while, it does freeze up, and we may lose the power for a few hours or a few days, sometimes weeks even. And so a propane heater is a good heater to have. I have central air and heating, but if your electricity is out, you don't have any heat. So years ago, I bought 3 of these type of propane heaters, which I really like as a backup just in case the power ever goes out. I can still heat my house, and especially if you have children, you want to keep them warm, and so it's a great thing to have. Now, looking at this particular type of propane heater, this is a infrared propane heater, and that's a great advantage there. Infrared heaters are kind of like the sun in the sense that they warm your body, they warm the floor, they warm various objects in your house and so forth. And you don't lose a lot of energy with infrared. And so that's an advantage of having infrared heaters. You may have a 15 to 20% savings on energy using infrared over other types of heating systems. And one of the neat systems is that the infrared system uses all the different types of heating methods like radiation, convection, and conduction and absorption. And so what it's going to do when you have infrared on, it's going to heat up this table, it's going to heat up these chairs, it's going to heat up the walls, it's going to heat up the floor, and the heat is not going to go up to the ceiling. Now, in my house, that's a good thing to have because in my house, I have vaulted ceilings. These are really high ceilings up here. So with vaulted ceilings, your heat goes up, and that's usually the way it works. So that's another great advantage to the infrared heater system. Now I have a large propane tank outside. I'm just guessing it's like 3 feet in diameter, round, and about 6 foot long at least, and holds several hundred gallons of propane. So that generally will last me probably 3 years the way I use it, because I don't use it that much. And like on a real cold morning, a lot of times I'll cut on one of my 3 propane heaters like this just to take the chill out of the room, and that's very helpful. So there's a great advantage using infrared and using these type of heaters. Again, I do have central air and heating, but just in case the power's out or something like that, I have a heater here to keep my house warm no matter what. I also added a stove, a propane stove for cooking in my house. I had electric stoves a long time, and I've had propane stoves before. Propane stoves seem to cook better to me than electric stoves, and it's instant heat, and you can turn it off and it's off instantly. So a lot of advantages to that too. And with a stove, you can heat your house with a stove, and you can cook on the stove whether you have electricity or not. So that's a great advantage. So we'll take a look at this particular one. Price-wise, they can go from $200, $300 for something similar to this right here. This is, I think, 30,000 BTUs, and it will put out a lot of heat. And it even has a fan in it too. So we'll take a little closer look. So it's kind of a nice looking heater to me, this particular design. And they're pretty simple. They have this grill on the front of them right here so that kids can't touch those bricks in there, which would certainly be really painful. They burn really easy on touching those things. And up here you've got vents right here for your fan system on these right here too, which is really nice. And the simplicity of these. Okay, just want to show you real quick how this works right here. And at the very top right here, we got what's called the igniter. You push that down, shoots the electric current, and into what we call this part right here in the center. That's a ceramic piece there, and I'll press it down that you see. That's what causes the ignition of your flame to generate. And up here we have this knob, and it's set for off. This little black triangle right here points to off. You would just simply turn it to pilot and press this down and hold it. You keep it down and hold it, and then put your finger over here while you're holding it down and press your striker. And that's your pilot light. Now you can release that large knob. And if you release it and it goes out, then you just need to hold it for another 30 seconds where you let it go when you first start cranking turning these things on. So you generally hold that knob down until after you see the flame and let off of it kind of easily. If the flame goes out, then you just push it down and strike it again and hold it down for, say, 10 seconds, 15 seconds to make sure the gas is able to purge through there if it hasn't been turned on in several months. And another great thing too, well, see I'll turn it on number 2, which is that you see the flames come out. And see, that's kind of pretty to me. And eventually it'll turn red. And these have a switch on top right here. Right here, and if you right here is auto, it'll automatically come on. It may take 5 minutes for it to come on auto. If you don't want to wait for that, because there's a lot of heat coming out of here, so you put it on manual, press the manual, and now your fan is on, and your fan is blowing heat out through here, and so that will help a lot in heating up your room very quickly. I'm going to turn the light off and let you see what this looks like in the dark. Okay, in the dark it has a beautiful glow to it, and it kind of illuminates your room with a pretty glow, whether it's your living room, dining room, or wherever you have your heaters at. And it's just a really nice heater system. And I'll cut the fan off on that. But these work really well. I hope that gives you some idea how these particular heaters work and how simple they are to turn on and off, and just like turning it off again, we would turn this clockwise because we want off to be here by this little triangle right here. And right now the heater is off, but the pilot light is still on. We keep turning that, and you see the pilot light lines up here. The pilot light is still on. And to turn it off, we got to turn it one more notch right here. You hear that click. Now it's definitely on off, and our pilot light is off. And you'll hear that popping sound. That's normal because this metal heats up and then it's contracting back. So if you ever have a problem, LP is or propane is really the way to go, I think, to, it kind of like a survival situation, or, in cold weather where you may have problems with your power or something like that. Okay, just in case everything else fails, I have a wood burning stove right here. And I could go out and I have a chainsaw. I could go out and cut down a tree, and I could burn wood. And I've used this stove over the years several different times. Usually when it's really, really cold, I like to do that, or, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, or, sometimes it's really cold. I like the smell of the wood burning, and you got plenty of wood to burn generally. So the wood burning stove works really well, and it will heat up my whole house. And I can put some big logs in there at night, and they'll burn all night long. I put it on low on the damper, and this little knob here is for the damper to control that amount of air going through there. And so that works really well. So that's the backup there. I've even cooked on this a little bit. I mean, just kind of warmed up stuff on the top of that because it gets really, really hot. And right here is an old Coleman Lantern. And this old Coleman Lantern here, could always turn, use that. I have Coleman fuel for that, so I could always crank that up if I needed the light too inside the house. It's good to have that too. And also I have Coleman stoves too. They're little rectangle stoves and so forth that I could use too. And the old ones here, and anything Coleman, you can rebuild those really cheaply. So that's another idea. This right here, in case you don't know, that's a like 1930s or 40s heater, and that's a real cool device. First one I saw, I think, was on the Waltons, that program, the Waltons family, and it's like a dish, like a satellite dish, and the heat comes from this ceramic part in the middle here and comes straight out and works really well. Oh, this is just one of the things right here that you might find very useful in preparing for the wintertime, especially if you worry about getting cold and not able to cook. And I'll show you the stove too. Several years ago, I switched over to propane gas on my stove. I had an electric stove, and I've used those a lot. And I've had gas stoves before, and I like gas stoves better. I like the way they cook. I think they cook better than electric for me. But anyway, the advantage of having a propane or gas stove is that, let's say your power goes out, okay, and it may be out for a day or two or three or more, and this way you can still cook in your house on your stove, and you can use the heat from the flames from your propane gas stove to heat your house too. And so to me, that's kind of a great advantage in a situation like that. So you kind of prepare for that. And of course, the oven is here, and it's got a burner inside of it that's on the top part here that runs across. And at the bottom, you've got a door you pull out, and you can put pots and pans and stuff like that in there if you want to. So just want to show you real quick the gas stove, how these things work. Now they have these little grids right here that hold your pots and pans, and you can pick these up and you can wash them. They're made out of cast iron. And right here you have a cover which is made of like cast iron, and it covers this piece right here. Now if you try to light the stove without this, a lot of times it's not going to light because the gas is going to be coming straight up, and it's going to pass the striker. And so I tried that. This is goes on here, and it will center. It's got a ridge in the bottom of it, so it will center. This needs to be centered. And just to give you an idea, right here on your knobs, you've got off, and you got light right here. And when you come off of off to light, you'll hear it start clicking. That clicking sound is shooting a spark where this gas is, and that's what catches the propane on fire. So let's listen to that. I'll go to light. That clicking, that's shooting a current through there. And so right here we have, this is high. You see the flame there, that's high. And then we'll cut it between high and medium. Makes a little difference. Then the medium makes more of a difference. And then between medium and low is right there. And then low is right here. So you have a small flame here. Now, the thing I want you to see is that, see how round that flame is? That's perfect right there. Now, what happens sometimes is that when you clean your stove and you wash around here, this plate right here, you may accidentally tip this plate to one side or the other. That's not a big deal, but you'll know it, so look for it. And I'm just going to move this plate just a little bit. So the plate, I moved it just a little bit, and you see you don't have any flames over here. And this looks kind of funny right here. So that lets you know that you don't have this plate on right. So it's not going to cook quite the same way. And then you can just move this plate. And that pops it back down in the center. So the plate always has to be in the center. And because you want an even flame. Now, on gas stoves, if you when you have a gas stove put in, it has to be level. If it's not level, this flame is not going to be even like that either. So that's another thing you have to consider. You want the stove to be level, especially if you got pots and pans. You don't want them sliding off either. But it has a little bit of effect on the flames here too. So you can only move this right here when that's on low. Because if the flame's out right here, it's going to be really hot. And you can't put your hands over this right here because it will singe the hair on your hands or your arms. And it's got a pretty flame right here. Now this is a large burner. This is a small burner back here. You see, that's a small one. This is the large one. And then over here, these are two medium burners. That's the same size right there, medium burner. So they kind of look pretty to me too. Now, one thing about a gas stove I really like is that, you know, if you leave in the kitchen, you say, I don't know if the gas is on or not. Well, you can see the flame. The flame it's on, you know. So you, at a distance, you can know whether the stove is left on or off. There is one thing to keep in mind too, that with these kind of stoves, now the buttons on them, if I turn them, they won't turn. You have to push them in and then turn them. Now you see right here is the clicker. Right there is where it starts clicking and it lights the stove. Okay, so it's still clicking. Now right there is not clicking anymore. Now this is possible. You can be leaning over the stove and getting something out of the cabinet or something like that, you know, and then you accidentally push this button in and turn it like that. You may not be able to hear that, but there's gas coming out of here. Okay, and that can be a real problem. And we're going to turn that off instead of. But if you accidentally push this in, you know, your body rubs against it and turns it on, you got gas coming out. And that gas can come out for some time, but propane gas has what's called mercaptan. It's a sulfur, terrible smell that's added to the propane, so that when you have a leak, the gas is coming out. You may not know that you accidentally have it turned on right here because it doesn't get to the lighter part that causes that clicking. And so you smell this sulfur smell, that should be your first warning that your gas stove is on. It's turned on partially. And so you don't want that to fill up inside your kitchen. A spark then could cause an explosion. That's a rarity that ever happens. Part of the fail-safe is these buttons will not turn unless you push them in. Okay. And then your oven down here has a bar that runs all the way across here, and flames shoot down from it because it's located at the top for your oven. And then you have the basic components here: bake, broil, self-clean, warm and hold, timer, cook time, delay start, set clock, start, stop, and so forth. And these stoves can go from $400 to several $1,000s if you want one that's really ornate and has all kinds of stuff on it. But again, for me, I like cooking with gas. You have the heat instantly. Turn it off, it's gone instantly. And in case you had bad weather and your power's out, that's the big deal. If your power's out, then it's cold in your house and you got no way to cook if you got electricity or to warm your house. But with this, you can warm your house with it. You can cook on it. And if for some reason your clicker's not working, or this clicker may be tied into electricity, I'm not sure, but you can use something like this like you would for a barbecue grill. And so I can turn this on kind of quick so it doesn't click, and then I'll just use this right here to light it. So all I need is a cigarette lighter or a match to light this with, preferably something longer, so you can light it without just using the clicker if you had to. This is just a thought, guys. Be prepared, if you especially live in the colder areas and you need to heat and being able to cook and keep your house warm, you got children and so forth.